Zachary Collins joins us to discuss his current projects and talk about being a teen entrepreneur and developer as well. Skype launches a new iPad app to deliver 3G calling. Google attacks Microsoft, Apple, and Oracle through a blog post. And Instagram has reached 150 million users, and Mark Zuckerberg's sister is walking out on Facebook. Coming up on Tech Weekly. Tech Weekly, episode 56. It's Saturday, August 6, 2011. So Jeb always complains that there's way too many mice here, and I'm just like, Jeb, get over it. But now I completely understand, because I am having a really hard time doing all this stuff right now. Yes, and Flash just crashed on Chrome. What a surprise.
Ooh.
A site I know all too well. So that ooh over there coming from the left. Well, I don't know which side you would be on. Carlo Brown is joining us from twitter.com/Carlo Brown, geekintelligence.com.
Actually, that one. It's geekintelligence.com
Geekintelligence.
and theteenagehackers.com. And all of my links are on about.me/Carlo Brown 174.
There we go. And you can find him in the chat room, Carlo Brown 174.
Indeed.
And also joining us this week, I mentioned his name in the beginning of the, whatever you call that. I call it the rundown, but whatever. Zachary Collins is joining us from twitter.com/Zachary Collins and use5.com. Zachary, how are you?
I'm doing great. Glad to be on the show.
If you're wondering why we were laughing, if you're watching live, we did this twice, and Zachary moved closer to his router. Much better now. Thank you for doing that, Zachary.
Yep. You're welcome.
Doing something that we do here. I'm not sure. We call it broadcasting. You could call it netcasting, podcasting, whatever. We're all too well accustomed to having problems, so don't worry about it. Trust me.
All right.
So, Zachary, you have... Actually, I want to start off the show with this. I saw you tweet this out yesterday, and the .NET Awards 2011 named you one of the top 10 teen developers. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Let me see if I can pull this up. I know a couple of these people, just, hanging out with them on Twitter and stuff.
Right.
Well, I know one of these guys is was involved with Teens in Tech. I think that's one of his guys.
Jake
but
Meat.
And then Interstate app. That's another really cool app. I've been following him on
I
Forest.
use that myself.
Yeah, it's a really cool app. So let's just read off this bio here. You're 16. You're in Michigan. You started developing at the age of 14. You've done some personal work, Twitbase, and Yasm. Is that how you say that?
Yeah.
So Yasm was a while back. Was that a question and answer thing or something like that?
You mean on the? Yeah, it was sort of like think Twitter, but based like a forum Twitter type thing. It was more like topics. You started a topic, and you had a 200 character limit, and it went through phase 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, sold to Teens in Tech. But yeah, basically it was like question and answers, but you could post links, and it was send messages. So it was a little alternative to Twitter in a way.
Sweet. And you've been featured on TechCrunch, Mashable, TV, the front page of the newspaper, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. Self-taught education. I'm assuming that's in coding and stuff, which a lot of people nowadays self-taught because you haven't had the ability to go to college yet, which a lot of people are in programming and stuff. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that once we get done reading this. Some of your web idols include Mark Zuckerberg, Jack Dorsey, and Brian Wong. Brian Wong's a really cool guy. Keep.me. We spotlighted that on a show that we no longer do called PB at Night. Really cool ad platform. Just some great guys over there.
Yep.
So, you have a personal website, Zach on the Web, and Zachary Collins on Twitter, like we talked about. So your current project is Use5, use5.com, and I'm actually a member there. Now, is Use5 still in beta? I remember...
Yeah, it's private beta right now. We aren't going to go public, where anybody can sign up at any time until we have the iPhone app out. Because the iPhone app is really going to be the key thing that makes 5 what it is. So,
can we show screenshots, or would you rather us not do that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Some people are just like, whatever. So let me see if I can get logged in here. I'm actually a member, and can you explain a little bit about what Use5 is while I'm trying to get logged in here? I have too many passwords.
Right. So it's kind of for 2 different types of people. There's 2 ways you can go at it. One, you can go at you walk into the store and you buy a new camera, and you really like it. So you can go on 5, give it a 5-star rating, a review, attach a picture to it, which are already listed for you. You just select one that you like best. And then you can, share it with all of your followers, or you can, flip it around and you can follow other people. You can find reviews of products. And right now it's really simple, but down the road we want to have like a wanted button for products, a buy now button, ways for merchants to sign up, and you can ask merchants questions about their product. But basically you can think of it as a Yelp for products.
Okay. So I'm showing on the stream here. This is a great this is something that you just reviewed not too long ago, 13 hours ago, and it is a review of something I love, Arnold Palmer Half and Half, which is made by Arizona. Yep. You've got a star rating here, so you gave it 5. Is it 5 out of 5 stars, I assume?
Right.
And one of the things that first strikes me when I look at this is the UI. You've obviously done like some major UI work. It's really easy, and it's something like this is something I have really loved about Google Plus is that compared to Facebook, it just seems so clean and everything. Right. And I can see where you could have really made the page really complicated and everything, but it's pretty simple. You've got your timeline here, so I'm following a couple people here. You can see that I reviewed a laptop, I reviewed my iPad, I reviewed my phone. And one of the interesting things I just, being on the service, I think I've been on there for about a month now, just watching you review some things. I think here's some of the top people to follow. Followed a couple of those. Andrew Bracken, one of those guys. The interesting thing I see about this is, like you said, Yelp is just focused on restaurants.
Right.
You could make a service that's just focused on gadgets or something, but I'm looking on the timeline here, and I'm seeing that you've reviewed some tortilla chips, you've reviewed some food, but then I've also reviewed an iPad. So, I mean, it's almost limitless what you can review, right?
Yeah, and that's definitely down the road. Right now we're just getting a collection of all products, but if you go to a product page, you can click Edit Information, and that sort of think of it as Wikipedia for products. And eventually we're going to have tons of different categories, and it just makes searching a lot easier and all that. So you can get the merchant website, the merchant name. Eventually there'll be links to Amazon and all that. So
that's obviously, I know you probably don't want to say this, but that's something that you could incorporate, like brands themselves maybe get partnered with you guys and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, exactly. That's definitely down the road.
Yeah, and so that's pretty cool. So you can actually bring in a description. Now, one of the interesting things I saw about it when I was reviewing a product, it's so easy. So it's right here up front. You can just say, what did you find today? Like, I reviewed an iPad earlier. Let's just say, I don't know, let's just do like a Vizio TV or something. And all you do is type it in here. And the cool thing is, I'm guessing you guys are surfacing from like Google Images or something.
Yeah.
And you're just bringing in...
Yep.
That's awesome because, like, I think that's something that you probably focus on because the ease of use, I mean, you want to make your service really easy to use because, like, let's just say that I had to go search. This is actually what I was thinking I was going to have to do is I went to Google, search for my phone name, and then I, before I typed in anything, because it's like, oh, here's an image right here.
Mm-hmm.
But then I typed it in expecting to have to upload my own image or something, and it's there. Like, that's just so awesome. That's just one of the things that I really thought that the service was really cool. So, yeah, sorry. I got distracted.
So basically, from what I can gather, you can go on there and you find an item and then you tell people what you think about it.
Yeah,
exactly. Yep.
And I like the fact that you do, like, through your timeline, you're actually I guess you call it like ellipsizing or something. You limit the description or what they say about the product to a certain number of characters, and that keeps the timeline uncluttered and everything.
Yep.
But are you limited to actually how long? I know you say that you should write a short review, but are you actually limited to what you can say? Like, how
No,
many
you can
characters?
write as much as you want. It's just, people like more short, so.
Yeah.
No.
So this is something really cool because right now, if I were like, this is my purchasing thing. So let's just say I want to purchase, I don't know. Let's just say I'm researching. Where's my phone? So I went to research about
a Samsung tab because you were looking at that the other day.
Yeah, that's a good one, Carl. Thank you. So the Samsung Galaxy Tab 10.1. I'm an Android user. I've got an iPad first gen right now. It's kind of like aging and stuff. Like I can kind of feel the wear and tear. I'm kind of ready to upgrade. So right now, one of the first things that I would do, because I'm big into the YouTube community and everything, I would go on YouTube, not Google, YouTube, and search for something like Samsung Galaxy Tab 10.1 review. And I would probably get, some of the bigger guys like John Ford Lakers and all those people. But then I'll get some smaller reviews of just somebody like my size who are just like, hey, I got this product. I'm going to give you my thoughts. But usually those videos are like 3 minutes at least to like up to 15 minutes. So that's a ton of steps that I have to go through to figure out about a product. I could also go to Amazon, look at their reviews and stuff. But if I'm on Use 5 or 5, I could just go on there and easily search for the Samsung Galaxy Tab. And if somebody's done a review, I can, and most of the time it's going to be through your friends, especially when a lot more people join. Like I've got some people over here for suggested users. A lot of these people I follow on Twitter, including Phil Fishman, and Zach, Zach's there, Andrew Bracken. So if I were to search for the product I'm looking for, the Samsung Galaxy Tab, and somebody's reviewed it, I'm going to get a really short review. It's going to be an honest review because I know that they probably bought the product. They didn't get, it wasn't sent to them by Samsung.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's awesome.
Real people reviews is what I was focused on.
And Amazon, Amazon is a great place for reviews. If I'm gonna go, if I'm purchasing something on Amazon, I'm gonna read the reviews, kind of like the iTunes reviews or something. But something like that, people like it's almost a playground. Like you don't know what you're gonna get. There's a bunch of like random comments and everything. Like I don't know. This is just such a simple UI, and plus it's crowdsourced from your followers, but you can also search for people outside of your general whatever you want to call it. And I also like what you're doing with the with your profile, so it makes your profile really easy, and you've just got use5.com/whatever your username is. So mine is Nick, and then right here all you got is your latest activity, and you can actually like it, you can comment on it. And I really like what you're doing with the star system. That's just an easy way of, indicating, like, I really like this product or whatever.
Right.
You got a short bio up here. You can implement a profile picture, and it shows you your review count and followers. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So like you said, it won't be it won't launch to everyone, until you get the iPhone app out. But you see, I got in, it's pretty easy. It took like a week or two. So you are adding people as time goes along if you sign up on the homepage. So that's really cool. So I had a couple questions lined up for you. I just wanted to spotlight Use 5 because that seems like is that like your current like big project right now? I guess you would say.
Yeah, it's my main project. I wanted to, I had Twitbase and I had Yasm, and then I got into this big mess where I had tons of different things going on. And I was like, you know what, screw it. I dropped everything. And I was like, what do I really want to focus on? So I spent like 2 months just looking at websites, getting, influenced by things. And then I was like, oh, I want to make something like Yelp for something, blank. And I was looking around and I was like, I can't find anything for products. I found like this one website, but it was about to shut down and it wasn't that great. And I was like, hey, this is potential right here. I could focus on this and make it really big. So sweet.
So I had a question lined up here, and it's something that we used to have an interview show, but then when we didn't have an interview, it morphed into just covering like a story or two in technology, but then that overlapped with all of our shows, so we eventually phased that out. So we're going to have more interviews here on Tech Weekly, and this is something I want to ask somebody in the startup space just in general. What do you find most interesting about the startup space, technology, like all that stuff, that, I mean, keeps you going? Because you've said that you had Twitbase. I mean, you could have easily, you know, just said, hey, I just sold a company right here to Teens in Tech. You know, I could just call it quits right now. And I know most entrepreneurs don't do that, but if you look at on the big picture, let's just say like, I don't know, the founder of Zappos, when they sold to Amazon, he probably had like so much money he could just like go buy his own island and just live there, but he doesn't, because he loves the game, and he loves just, you know, starting businesses and everything. So he's still in the game. Like, you want to talk a little bit about like what gets you so interested about startups?
Well, when talking about startups, usually they're small teams of people, and they have these big ideas. You know, think of Keep by Brian Wong. They have this gigantic idea of offering a new way of advertising, mobile advertising. And it's a small team, and they take chances every single day. You know, they're, you know, sitting there trying to, you know, think, what can we do next? What can we change in the game? Yet how can we also make this a multi-billion-dollar company? You know, so it's all about chances, and I think that's really cool, because you could just, you know, play it safe, go work for somebody else. But yeah.
And my dad's big to like into finance and stuff, so I track this a lot, and he gets into like all these debates with me. And one of the main things, like, the Dow dropped like 500 points on Thursday, and one of the things that screams out to me is, and this is where people are drawing that there could be a tech bubble, is that there's so many startups. There's Keep, there's all these startups getting venture capital. There's, you know, I mean, and who was it? I mean, Groupon is preparing to file for IPO. You've got Pandora filed for IPO a couple months ago. Who else was it that did really well? I can't remember. Anyway, so startups, I mean, it just seems like every time I go on Twitter, I go on Facebook, whatever, and I go on TechCrunch, I see these new startups that are doing amazing, and many of them are started from people that are under 20. And that's another thing I wanted to hit on, is I've ran into this a lot, because I'm 17 years old, you know, got a broadcast network, I guess you could call it here, and I mean, we have been moderately successful, but we've over the years I've like reached out to people. I'm like, hey, would you like to sponsor us or whatever? And I haven't really seen this in, of course, this isn't like a real business, like we didn't start it to make money or anything, but I saw this in actually viewership, because just we post our stuff on iTunes, YouTube, whatever, and especially on YouTube, people see that I am not, you know, like Jacob, my co-host, 26. If he was just sitting here in the chair right now, people would probably be more inclined to listen to him just sitting here, just because he looks like he knows what he's talking about. And that's something that so many people have told me, and I asked them, hey, you know, they may follow me on Twitter or something. I'm like, why don't you watch our podcast? He's like, why would I want to watch a 17-year-old's podcast? And I say, well, I mean, why don't you give it a try? Like, and I hear that from a ton of people, and I talked to Spencer Shobin, and he said, you know, one of the things you need to do, you need to produce great content. And I told him, you know, we try to produce great content. We try to have good guests on, you know, good opinions, everything like that. And one of the things that hits me is there's a ton of people who see my videos, who see our videos, and they say, they look at me and they say, you're 17. Why do I want to listen to a 17-year-old? And they don't even click on the video. And that's something that I worry about. But I think being a developer and being like having a startup is a little bit easier than that, because if you're 17, if you're a teenager, whatever, 16, whatever, and you can produce a product like Use 5 that works and that people love and that they don't have to try out, and in a way, Use 5, if you did not promote that you were a teenager and somebody just went to that website, like right now, if I go to the homepage, I can't tell that you developed this and that you were 16. I'm just going to go to the website, I'm going to sign up, be like, hey, this is cool. And then you find out later, it's a teenager who did this. Like,
Yeah.
And this is something that the Teens in Tech conference that's been going on in the past couple of days, they've been focusing on this as well. And I want to get your thoughts. Like, you got any couple tips? Like, and I know that it's completely different for me and you because, you know, development, if you produce a great product, if you make a good iPhone app, you're going to get users. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to differentiate because you're 17 that it's not going to be a great iPhone app because you can kind of hide behind that. But for like teens that want to get into, you know, starting their own business or just producing a product online, do you have any tips for them? Just like, you know, how to, I don't want to say like make it, but I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One thing is, don't brag about your age. I learned that a long time ago is when I did Twit Basis. Like, you may be young, you might be doing amazing things, but like you said, if you're young, people don't take you seriously. On Use 5, I'm not going to go like, you know, created by a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
But, you know, if they ask me, I'm not going to lie about my age. You know, I'm not going to live a double life. But, you know, for teenage people who want to, you know, get started and all that, you know, really just go out there and do whatever you want on the internet. As in building applications, whether it be a stupid little fart application on the iPhone, but, you know, just something to get you started and get your mind working. And if you want to get into, you know, the internet company thing, take the time to save some money and learn HTML, CSS, PHP, because that'll save you a lot of money from paying other people. And really just, you know, eventually, and then the main thing is connections. Definitely make a lot of connections, get to know people like Spencer Shobin, Daniel Brew, and, you know, send me an email even. You know, I'm here to, you know, talk. You know, I'll answer any questions. So it's just, the main thing is getting connections and just going out there and doing whatever and building stupid little apps until you get this brilliant idea. It doesn't have to be a $1 billion company at the very beginning. So.
And I think one of the things as well that I always stress is a lot of people say context is king, and that's true, especially on YouTube and whatever, but you have to realize that you're doing this for a purpose. And one of the things, just building a community, that has been something that has really proved beneficial to me, is, like you said, making connections. And I read a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk stuff. I mean, there's a ton of people out there. You got Robert Scoble, all these people, and Gary Vaynerchuk, just one of the examples that I always go back to with his book Crush It and the Thank You Economy. If you read those books and you take some of that to heart, like, you can't do exactly how one person got to fame. Like, I see this all the time in broadcasting and everything.
Yeah. One mistake people always do is, you know, I want to be the next Steve Jobs. I want to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. But really, you know, you can go, you know, oh, hey, I want to own a multi-billion-dollar company, but don't be the next Steve Jobs. Be the next you. You know, you want to be the person that people go up to and be like, hey, I want to be the next you.
Yeah.
You know. So.
And that's another thing. You have to be very upfront with yourself. This is something that I've seen before. Like, you have to realize who you are, and you have to put that. People can tell if you're being fake. So, for example, you said that you wouldn't live a double life. If somebody asks you how old you are, you're going to tell them, which I think is a great idea. You know, you don't want to hide behind that. But, you know, for instance, I love, you know, things in tech, but I also love sports. Like, I'm not going to hide that I love sports just so people will follow me more on tech. Like, you have to be yourself and then market yourself to people who might want to follow you. I mean, that's something that you have to do. And Gary Vaynerchuk, like I said, I read a lot of his stuff. I watch a lot of his videos. He always says that people who, let's just say you want to start a new internet show and you say, I'm going to be the next Oprah. You're probably not going to be the next Oprah. But the thing is, right now, in so many different unique fields, like from being a startup to doing broadcasting and everything, there's such a big marketplace. There's so many people playing in that space that, let's just take, for instance, Tyra Banks. She has a show kind of like Oprah. She's not Oprah. She's not near as big as Oprah, but she's still making like $35 million a year or whatever she makes. I mean, it's probably more than that.
You know, don't go out to be the next Oprah or whoever, but at least still aim big, you know, think big. So.
Yeah, exactly. Ron Knight's in the chat room is asking, why would you want to be anybody else? You would be very surprised on how many people, and I always go back to YouTube because I play in that space a lot, and I see this so many times. Just tech reviewers in general, they're gonna be the next Chris Pirillo. They are Chris Pirillo, except in 14-year-old form, and they change themselves. They act like Chris Pirillo. They dress like, they do everything like Chris Pirillo. And I'm like, you're not gonna succeed, because if people want to watch something that's like Chris Pirillo, guess what they're gonna watch? Chris Pirillo.
Yeah, exactly.
So
there's nothing wrong with having influences and people you look up to, but it's always best to do your own thing.
Oh no.
Yep, exactly.
Did we lose Carlo's video? I don't know. Anyway, while I do this...
I don't worry about it. My camera keeps flicking out every now and then because of the lighting in here.
Hold on. I might have just done something. Give me a second.
My video is still running, so... You did desktop presenter screw.
I have no clue what just happened. Anyway, so... Let me see here. I have no clue what happened.
The video's still running on Skype for me.
Maybe I just hid you. Hold on. So Zach, you want to talk a little bit more about just like the importance of, I guess, being self-taught a little bit and being informed. Like, one of the key things that I would say is, if you're going to start a website or something, if you're going to do like a service like Five, I think you're right in the fact that you need to learn the skills yourself. That way you don't have to spend money, because, I mean, we've seen this before. Like, there's a lot of guys, like, I think, there's plenty of people, like, and teens cash in on this a lot, because there's older people that, they don't know how to capitalize. They know how to capitalize on their, startup or whatever, but they can't do development whatsoever. And they end up spending thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in development trying to get their startup off the ground, and then, it'll flop or something.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that you really have to, just, I'm trying to get Carlo back here. There we go. Yes.
Yay.
Yeah. And at one point, I didn't know how to code myself, so I'd go on to something like Scriptlance, and I'd pay other people to do it. And the only reason I had that money was because, like, either my mom helped pay for it, or I sold Twitbase, and at that time I really didn't know how to code anything, so I invested like $800 into building Yasm, until I started looking at the code myself, and I started to catch on to everything. And I was like, I got this now. And so I just started messing around, and I built a private messaging feature in less than 24 hours for Yasm. I'm like during this Halloween party or something, I'd go back and forth and work on it. And it actually turned out really cool, just because I took the time and sat down and started to think in a way how programmers do. And it's sort of like a puzzle, and eventually you just catch on.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, I remember, this story just always pops up in my mind when you say that. Facebook video, remember that? Like, that was like didn't they spend like a couple hours on that, and then like the next day they had implemented Facebook video? And I'm like, wow, that's awesome. And that's something that you have to think about if you're going to start a company or start a startup on the internet. Is, if you wanted to right now, you could go into Use 5 and like completely change, like you said, add a group messaging feature or something, and you could do that within, just a day or a month or whatever, and you can implement that. But if you're paying somebody, you have to go through them. First of all, you have to shell out the money to do it, but then you have to go through them. You have to wait on their schedule, and you have to collaborate and everything. I think you're right in that. Just saying that, if you're gonna do something that would require online development, that you probably need to get savvy in that.
Yep.
And there's ways. I've never been big into programming. Like, it's never just really hit home with me. But I've read up on it in some cases, and you don't have to start out with PHP or HTML or something. I mean, there's scripting languages, like you said, that you can start out with and build. Just learn how some programming works, and then it kind of builds on each other, and then you can go all the way up there to maybe even learning C++ or Java or JavaScript or something. So
it's all like a puzzle.
Yeah, and I think that's really, it's encouraging. I know that especially like just looking at learning how to code can be like a really daunting task, but when you think about it, like once you get that first building block set, you can like build on that, and then you can work your way up. And Malcolm Gladwell always says 10,000 hours before you become good at something, and all you can really do is practice. I mean, you can sit there and run your own, what is that called, like XAMPP or something server, and you can just run it on your home. You don't even have to have a hosting plan or whatever. If you want to practice PHP or whatever, you can just do it on your own local network and perfect it or whatever. So it's pretty awesome.
Yep.
All right, so let's jump into some news stories here. I didn't include very much because I knew that Zach would be joining us, so we didn't have much time. And we're going to experiment with this for you normal viewers. Zach actually decided that he would want to stay on for the rest of the show just to talk, because I know he has a passion for tech and stuff, and that's awesome. And I'm not going to encourage our guests to do that from now on, but if they want, like if it's more of an interview style and they want to stay on, I would love to have them. So our first story here, and these will be available on our website in the show notes, is Skype is adding video support for 17 Android phones, which really makes me happy as an Android user. Unfortunately, my phone is not on here, but I have, of course, a rooted phone and a custom ROM, which allows me to do it. But
I think I can do that on the iPhone, though. I haven't tried that.
Yeah, they did add that a couple. It's something that has been a kind of a shaky issue, because between Verizon and AT&T, especially on the iPhone, they've been hesitant to add that because, AT&T's got unlimited if you're grandfathered in, but now they're going to start throttling it. Verizon just did away with their unlimited plan, and I'm sitting on a 2 gig plan on AT&T because that's the max that you can get right now for, I think it's $30 a month or something. And I'm not going to be doing Skype video calls because sometimes just browsing the web, doing tweets and stuff, like, sometimes joining a chat room or something, doing some IM, I'm using almost 2 gigs a month. You know what I mean? So streaming video.
Yeah, we can do this on Wi-Fi as well. So.
Yeah, true. And another big story is they launched Skype for iPad. Now, Carlo, was Skype for iPad actually out before this? I don't think it was.
It is now. I think it's been out for about 2 days, although I haven't used it because I haven't got an iPad 2, just the one.
Yeah, true.
So I can't really test the video on it. But yeah, it's been out for about a couple of days now.
Just looking at the UI here, it looks a lot like Skype for the desktop, especially Skype for Windows.
Yep.
It's got full, IM support. Now, Zach, do you have an iPad?
I'm actually buying one in a couple weeks.
That's awesome. So I assume you'll get the iPad too.
Yep.
That's like I said, Carlo and I are stuck on the iPad 1, and I'm probably not going to upgrade either till the iPad 3 or until a good honeycomb tablet comes out. But overall,
I think you can see on the iPad 1. I think you can basically see the other person's video, but obviously you can't send yours.
Okay, so that's not too bad. You've of course still got voice chat and stuff. Just looking at here, I mean, they did pull it earlier. I think when it first launched, I think that might have been, it was earlier this week, like Carlo said, 2 or 3 days ago. They pulled it from the App Store, and at first everybody was like, oh crap, they snuck this under AT&T and Verizon, and then they figured out it's in the App Store now. But actually,
well, they put it back as quick as they pulled it out.
Yeah,
they pulled it out, and about 5 minutes later it was back.
They said that it was an issue with some of their code or something. It actually wasn't ready for launch, and it got, like they pushed it way too early or something. But luckily, it's still in there. And video calling for the iPad is something. Well, FaceTime was there, but I've never been too good. Never been too big on FaceTime for the fact that you have to have a Mac or an iOS device. Skype being on the iPad means that I can give my grandparents an iPad, and I can sit here on my desktop or whatever on my phone, if you've got an Android or iPhone that supports that, and you can call whoever you want. And the iPad's just such a simplistic device. You could easily hit, with like my grandparents or something, they could easily hit accept the call, or they could call us or whatever. And I know that the iPad doesn't have that good. The iPad 2 doesn't have the best cameras, but I think, especially the front-facing camera, it'll do the job for Skype. I don't know. I mean, it's just an interesting...
The front camera with a decent amount of lighting will be perfectly fine for that kind of stuff.
Right. And this kind of excites me as well, because doing things like what Jacob does at CES when he calls us and we do a live broadcast or whatever, it kind of excites me that he could have a honeycomb tablet or an iPad and just stand there and not have to have a full-fledged desktop anymore, and we could do our broadcast. That's just something that,
I think Jacob's got the front cam on his Evo, hasn't he? So he could
does.
Just take his phone with him and get on Skype and sort of carrying the laptop like last time, and just have his phone and say, "Hi, I'm here."
That was hilarious when he was on that laptop. So our next story here is TechCrunch's former director of marketing, which was actually Mark Zuckerberg's sister, Randy. Is it Randy? Yeah, Randy Zuckerberg.
I think so, yeah.
I thought that was a typo when I first read that, but it's not. She's leaving the company, and she's going to start a company called R2Z Media that's going to focus on social media implementation for different brands and stuff, which, all credit to her. I mean, she wants to go do her own thing. But she's been with the company almost... she's been the director of marketing since 2009, and she's been with the company almost since day one. I don't know. And the funny thing is, she did announce her resignation on Facebook. Well, she sent her resignation letter to the guys over at Facebook, but now, she announced it over Facebook. Now, Zach, what do you think about this? I mean, you think this is going to hurt Facebook, or you think that, she had just had enough and she was ready to get on to her own stuff?
On her behalf, I think it's brilliant, because how would you like to be the client of somebody who has Christmas parties with the CEO of Facebook? She can use it to her advantage. She got all the experience of being the director of marketing at Facebook. So she can really use it in her new company. Definitely hire a lot of great people and get a lot of great clients who want to work with it.
Yep, exactly. And like that, I didn't really think about it that way, but that's gonna be a really good resume for her when she can say that, hey, I'm probably, I may live by my, my brother, but like you said, I'll see him at Christmas parties or whatever. I'm sure she'll have some insight into the company, and she could, probably share that with some brands. He's sitting in a pretty good position to especially have that on her resume, but also be like, hey, why don't you let us consult your brand, because I've had some experience at Facebook, and I just so happen to be Mark Zuckerberg's sister.
Yep.
That definitely helps.
Yeah. I don't know. That's pretty interesting. Actually, I think Mike Arrington was like really good friends with her, and I hadn't really heard about her that much. But obviously, being the marketing director at Facebook, Facebook is always under a lot of PR pressure, and I know she didn't exactly work in public relations, but she's done a really good job. I mean, Facebook, when you can get a brand, so say for instance, like I don't know, Home Depot or something, on their advertisements on TV, on like a TV spot, instead of putting homedepot.com or whatever their website is, they put their Facebook link. You're doing something right. And, I never encourage that, but she's obviously, worked with a bunch of brands, whether it be, big brands from, big box stores or whatever. Facebook's got a pretty big market share just for fan pages and everything, so she's obviously done a pretty nice job. So our next story here is from TechCrunch as well, and this is a pretty interesting story. So we've covered it. We didn't do a show last week, or did we? I can't remember. Episode 54.
No, not last week.
Yeah, not last week. Episode 54 and 55, we talked about how Google was kind of patent poor, which pretty much means, for the longest time, they haven't really actively, filed patents, but on some of their products, but they're not IBM. And IBM, really, what a lot of people think keeps them afloat for the last 100 years, I think this is their 100th year of being in existence, is they had so many patents. And so many of these other companies, like you're looking at it right now, Android and a lot of the Android device makers are under patent lawsuits right now with Apple and Oracle because, I know Oracle is suing for some of the Java code being in the Android emulator, as well as, obviously Apple suing Samsung because, just for instance, the touchpad looks a ton like the iPad and all this stuff.
Yeah.
This is the dangerous thing about having a company blog that anybody, or not anybody, but somebody can get to. One of the higher ups at Google went on to the official Google blog this week, and he actually attacked different companies. He attacked Oracle. He went towards Microsoft. He went towards Apple, and he said that he entitled the post, "When Patents Attack Android." I've worked in the tech sector for over 2 decades. Microsoft and Apple have always been at each other's throats. So when they get in bed together, you have to start wondering what's going on. Here's what's happening. Android's on fire. More than 550,000 Android devices are activated every day. I mean, we've covered that before. They're on 39 manufacturers, 231 carriers, and pretty much he's saying, like, Microsoft and Apple are banding up against us, between patents. I mean, Microsoft gets paid $5 for every HTC Android device that's produced. That's a lot of money, and that came through patents. I mean, just looking at this, you can tell that he's frustrated just with the language that he uses, and Google's not in the best position right now. I think they bought up, what was it, like 1,000 or some odd patents from like IBM and a couple other companies. I mean, that's just crazy. And in this day and age, there's been a lot of people debating whether software patents should actually exist, because you're getting on to, well, that's actually an intellectual idea or whatever, and it hinders growth or whatever. But Google being under so much criticism and everything for all these patent things, and Apple even under criticism for being patent trolls, attacking HTC and Samsung and all these people. I don't know. Google's going to have to keep their watch up. So
it's kind of annoying.
It is annoying.
All these patent things. I go on TechCrunch every day. Apple suing Google, Google suing Microsoft, Microsoft suing Apple. It's just all fighting each other every single day, and it's really annoying.
And
it's getting out of hand because of this thing.
It really is.
Is it this thing with the phones that they?
Yeah, it's definitely the
they're
phone.
trying to
Ever
get them to
since the phones
stop
came
Samsung to stop selling their phones or something because they're too similar. And
I think I'm one of those people. I think there need to be patents in some. There has to be patents, because what's going to keep Apple from making an iPhone 5 and then Samsung coming up and being like, hey, we've got this awesome hardware that looks exactly like an iPhone 5, but it runs Android. And you could say, well, okay. But in the same way, I would rather Apple, instead of attacking Samsung and attacking HTC, just outperform, because that makes a better market share for all of us. Like, instead of saying, well, screw you guys because you have the same connector, a connector that looks just like ours, talking about Samsung, why don't you just make the connector, make it like easier to use, make the devices faster or something? And debatably, Apple has done that, but patent trolling is something that it hinders development, and it also hinders. Google's focusing more on patents right now than they probably are. They're focusing more on defending Android than forward thinking on Android, which does not make it's not good for us as a consumer. It's not good for really anyone.
It definitely limits what they can build when there's so many patents out there for the software and all that.
Yep. So I don't know. We'll keep track of that, and Google's still in the midst of some lawsuits with Samsung, and I think they're gonna come to a settlement with HTC, and we'll cover that when that happens. But anyway, so this is a pretty interesting story. I know, Carlo, you've been an Instagram user. Instagram hit 150 million photos just this week, and they've got a little bit over 7 million registered users.
Thanks to Justin Bieber.
Yes, thanks to Justin Bieber. That was kind of funny. A lot of people been out of shape because he had joined Instagram. You know,
he has over 60,000 followers now on Instagram.
That's crazy.
I can guarantee you that was not the reason I joined Instagram.
And I mean, Instagram has really proven to be. It's really proven the iPhone as, you know, the iPhone 3G and the 3GS were always criticized for having, I think the original iPhone had like a 2 megapixel camera or something. But now, you know, the iPhone 4 still, there's a ton of Android phones that have like 8 megapixel cameras now. But the hardware really, you know, it shows that they put a lot into the development of the hardware and stuff. And the lens on that iPhone 4 is just really great.
I guess putting some pretty good photos with the iPhone 4.
Every time I go on, I've got Instagram on my iPad just to, you know, like follow some people and stuff. And every time I go on Instagram, I get amazed from if I'm following like Trey Radcliffe or just Steve Wainwright from Right Way to Photo. I mean, there's just so many good pictures. I mean, you can look at this right here. And the best thing is, they're all really good pictures, but some of them are just a lot better. So, like, if I go on there right now, I can see, like, a ton of awesome pictures. I mean, look at that. I mean, I would be extremely happy if I took that with my Nikon DSLR. I mean, you know, people are doing some amazing things with the iPhone. And I think it just kind of proves that the best camera that you can have is the one that's always on you, which is your iPhone or your Android device or whatever. So...
yeah,
that's awesome, and
it's definitely a big market right now with PicPlease and Instagram all gaining users.
Yep. I mean, you could just look at some of these. That's kind of a weird photo, but you can just look at these photos all day. I mean, they're just so awesome. And Instagram's really been an awesome startup, and they've done a really nice job. Kind of wish they'd come to Android, but doesn't look like that's going to happen right now. So, I'm
someday,
hopefully.
Well, I heard that was in development, but then that's kind of gone quiet.
That was back in, wasn't that during Christmas? It was a while back.
Yeah, that was last year, yeah. But they said they were thinking about, well, they were in development of doing an Android app, but they went quiet on it.
Sorry, exactly. So our last story here is something that we knew was coming for quite a while. The old Twitter, as Twitter likes to call it, is going to be phased out in the upcoming weeks. And The Next Web, which is a great tech blog if you ever follow it, they highlighted 5 different users that are going to miss the old Twitter. And honestly, after I switched back a couple days ago, actually it was when I was researching for the show, I switched back because I had almost forgot what the old Twitter looked like. I mean, now they've actually, I haven't come across any page that's like that hasn't been converted yet to the new Twitter format.
Honestly, I thought that they got rid of the old Twitter already. I didn't think that they would.
Well, up to recently, you still had the chance to go on there and pick that you wanted to go back to the old Twitter. And I don't really know anybody who used it, but I'm sure there was people that use it. And I'll put this in the show notes. I'm not going to read all these, but...
well, I'm an app user, so I don't really use the website that much, but there's a lot more options in the new Twitter than there is in the old one for
keyboard shortcuts and all kinds of stuff, yeah. Right. Like you said, I use Chrome Deck, TweetDeck's Chrome offering for desktop use, and I use TweetDeck or Twitter for Android or whatever on...
The old Twitter, the one thing that was different, that was a little better than the new Twitter, is that it was a lot more simple. It was really focused on what Twitter was focused on in the very beginning. And now they're really focused on tons of different things. Except I do like the new Twitter, just the simple part I like best about the old Twitter.
Yep. The design, I like the design a ton better. But like you said, it's a little bit more cluttered, and you know, I think that's going to happen as there's been a lot of talk about promoted tweets and all that stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot they're doing to make some money, so.
Yeah. So we'll be tracking that story as well. And I guess that pretty much does it for this episode of Tech Weekly. As always, you can follow Carlo Brown on Twitter, twitter.com/CarloBrown. Geektelligence, let me see if I can pull this up, pbcasttv.com and the teenagehackers.com, where Carlo is both contributors to both those sites. Some great informative articles there. Zach, we thank you for joining us. We worked through some technical difficulties, but it was really fun talking to you. And we'd love to have you back on sometime.
All right. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Zach's at twitter.com/Zachary Collins. And then use5.com. You've also got, is your personal website Zach on the Web? Is that what it is?
It's zachtheweb.com. And that's Zach with a K, too.
Yes. So. Sorry. And you can follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/ThatNickJones, and check out my blog, nickjones.me. Hit me up on Google+, Nick Jones, just search that up. I think gplus.to/NickJones is my URL. And then check me out on, if you get into Use5, my username is Nick, so just search Nick Jones, or just head over to use5.com/Nick. Great talking with you, Zachary.
Yep, thanks for having me.
One more thing, you can follow pbcasttv on Twitter, twitter.com/pbcasttv, and pbcast.tv, thanks to one of our guys in the chat room. Smoothie, sorry, I went blank there. Anyway, guys, Jacob will be back next week. We'll have all of our shows next week, I believe, anyway. Gadget Gurus coming up on Monday, 6 p.m. Central Daylight Time, live.pbcasttv.com. So until then, I'm Nick Jones.
I'm Carlo, as always.
And Zach, one more time, thanks for joining us. And we'll see you soon. Peace. Oh, see, I don't even have the music pulled up. Should I do that? I don't think so.